c'est la vie. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they know I got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot. Cause I'm counting wins all around the clock. Never doubt me, boy, don't stop. Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the option. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. I'm running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down, no.
What does it mean to you to have him join this organization? What's up, bro? Excited to be back.
What is this? Is Snapchat?
Yeah.
You still have a Snapchat?
Yeah, you know.
The year 8. We back at it, man.
Back at it.
Back here with TT on Snapchat.
The old fart, the young pup.
The old fart that still has a Snapchat is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this is just for, like...
Yeah, no. Do your thing. Yeah, work, phone, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? But good to see y'all. Year 8, we back at it.
You got you guys on both sides.
They said no jewelry. Hey, BJ, he got jewelry on.
Man, 14 years.
All right, baby. Man, that is a child. That is a child, and I'm a child too. So I think it's pretty dope. But he's a leader, man. He's he brings the energy, as you can see, brings the vibe, lightens the mood for everybody in the locker room. So that's gonna be exciting. Glad to have him.
That's pretty awesome stuff. That was Tristan Thompson basically interrupting Donovan Mitchell's portion of Cavs Media Day. And you need stuff like that, man. You need guys like that on your roster that can keep things even-keeled and lighthearted. And I'm glad that we ended up bringing Tristan Thompson back. However you may feel about his on-court production or, what occurred last year with the 25-game suspension, that was a pretty cool moment to see. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. And as you no doubt know already, it is Cavs Media Day 2024, right before the start of training camp, which begins tomorrow. And I could not be more excited. I mean, just on Friday, we got to hear from both Kenny Atkinson and Kobe Altman. And, we got a lot of information about the direction of the franchise wants to go in. We got a lot of information about possibly how far the rotation is going to run and how we're going to get Evan Mobley more touches and up his utilization. And, some of those things that we have been wanting answers to for a long time. And then today you got to hear from the players themselves, which is always a treat because you just never know what you're going to hear. You never know what you're going to see. You don't know who's going to interrupt you or, if you're going to have some nonsense being asked out there. And though we couldn't quite hear many of the questions that were being asked to the Cavs during that session, it was still nice to get to hear from them. You really got a lot of quotables. I guess we can probably start with Jarrett Allen, who, provided a lot of good information today. There was these are one of the quotes that he put together.
It's like I said, especially with rib injuries and what I've been through, you never understand how bad it is until it actually happens to you. Like I said, I looked at other people and I truly didn't believe it was as bad when it happened to them. And I I finally was on the receiving end of that. But I feel like I'm very sure of myself. I feel like I'm very understanding of if I was able to play, I would play. I've played every single game that season that I could, barring injury. And if I could have, I would have. I did, yeah. I mean, it's on the media. It's understandable. It's like I said, you don't understand until you go through it. No, it takes a lot more to get under my skin.
Jarrett, one of the things that was kind of maybe a little awkward about the situation was in the injury report you kept being this rib contusion.
Right.
After the season, Kobe said pierced rib fracture.
Yeah.
Was that discrepancy frustrating to you at all? That people might have thought, this guy's not
right.
Bad.
I think that definitely contributed to the skepticism of the injury. Now that it's out, looking at the CT scan, you can still see the piece of bone that's still floating in my body somewhere. So it was definitely a more or a worse injury than people thought. I would say like a full 2 weeks.
So you can tell there, obviously, we know all the shit that went on last year with the skepticism running rampant in regards to Jarrett Allen's rib injury, whether it was a pierced rib, a broken rib, a rib contusion. Just was no label on what type of injury it was for the longest time. And you heard from Jarrett Allen himself just there. Like they literally, you could look at the CT scan apparently and see that the bone was still moving around in there. It just, anytime you hear that, it's like cut the guy some slack. We really don't know whether or not he could have played. And I choose to believe that had he been able to be out there and suited up, he definitely would have been able to do so. That was one of the bigger takeaways for me. The one quote that he said there that really stuck out was, it was rough and you never understand how bad a rib injury is until it happens to you. And I think that is most injuries. Like, that is most injuries. You never, we all sit up here on social media, especially, and we want to be Twitter doctors and we want to, diagnose specific things. And we don't know what the hell is going on because it's not really us. So it's really easy to sit here from the comfort of our couch and our, watching this shit on TV and say to ourselves, well, man up or, walk it off, things of that nature, any type of cliche you want to throw out there. But it truly, that rings true. You never understand just how bad an injury, let alone a rib injury, is until it actually happens to you. I've never broken my ribs, but I would imagine, based upon what I've heard from specific people in my life, and then Jarrett Allen right there, that it's pretty debilitating, especially if you're trying to play basketball, a position that is very physically demanding at center for Jarrett. So I completely understand him not taking the court, and I'm glad that he came out and he clarified that. I'm glad that it was asked. We all knew it was going to happen. I think a lot of people knew that was going to happen. Beast Girl says, damn, the magic elbows was that strong. Shit. I'm still down with the good guys, Cavaliers for life. Same here, man. I'm very excited about the fact that we brought this core four back, and I'm very, very upbeat about the possibilities of this Kenny Atkinson offense. When asked about his contract extension, Jarrett Allen literally mentioned, I genuinely like it here. And I think that we can see that he does. He's very chill, very laid back, and he's not one of these guys who's going to go out and try and party. He fits well here, and I'm glad that we were able to add additional years to his contract. We never know how long a player is going to be here, even after something like that occurs, because frankly, we could have just added additional years to his contract to increase his value for a trade later on down the line. But for now, he is a Cleveland Cavalier, and he loves it here. He said that one of his personal goals this year was to suit up in all 82 games this year, something that just seems to rarely ever happen in the NBA anymore. Jarrett, his career high in games played, came back during the 2018-19 season where he was being coached by Kenny Atkinson, and he played 80 games that season. Now, since he's been with Cleveland, I can't necessarily count the 2020-21 season because that was the season that he was moved over here. But in the 3 seasons since, he's played in 56 games. We all know how 21-22 went with the thumb injury, I believe. He played 68 games last year, and this year was his most healthy season yet in Cleveland, playing 77 games and being a pivotal part of the stretch run, especially with Evan Mobley and Darius Garland missing so much time. And we saw that he played like an all-star, and frankly, I thought he deserved it, but it is what it is. And then he looks like the best player in that Orlando Magic series prior to being injured, prior to getting that rib injury. And then he misses the rest of the series and the rest of the postseason in particular. So I'm hoping that he's able to finally show the world why he I don't know when that happened. Hopefully you guys can still hear me, but I think my mic went out for a second. B, can you hear me? I'm assuming that you can. I might have to leave out of here and test my mic here a little bit, but yeah, I'm getting feedback here, so I think we're good. But yeah, one of the things that was mentioned was the Marcus Morris comments that was made on a podcast and questioning, the basically Jarrett Allen's toughness and whether or not he could have went out there and played. And he was asked if he was bothered by that, and he wasn't. So you like to hear that, and you just never know how much these types of shots that guys can take out in separate media appearances, how much that can actually take a toll on somebody from a locker room standpoint or from a mentality standpoint. And it's good to hear that Jarrett Allen didn't really take that to heart, because he said, you heard it from his mouth, like, it's understandable. People don't understand how bad these rib injuries can be until they go through it. And it wasn't Marcus Morris going through that. It was Jarrett Allen. So I was glad to hear that he really wasn't impacted by that statement. But I have to wonder, because Marcus Morris was released from his Exhibit 10 contract with the Philadelphia 70s. Was it the 76ers? I believe. He was released from his most recent contract, and he is now a available free agent. And I have to wonder if Jarrett Allen maybe said that because the possibility of a Marcus Morris reunion with the Cavs is on the table, but I doubt that. It's probably just me speculating there a little bit. But obviously, Jarrett Allen was not the only player that we heard from during media day. One of the players that I was most looking forward to hearing from was Darius Garland, who was asked about some of the outside noise that he heard after such a brutal season, because we all know Darius Garland is capable of big things, but by his standards, due to numerous factors, it was a rather disappointing season. So when asked about how, what he thought of and how he dealt with the outside noise, this was his response.
I really don't really look at it, to be honest with you. A lot of people send it to me or something. I just come across it from a text message or something. But yeah, the media stuff doesn't really get to me. What really matters is what this organization really wants and what they hear and what they tell me. So just really worry about the organization, not really worry about the outside.
Simon said you're ready to shut people up. How do you do that?
Play my game, go be myself. Don't really worry about the outsiders, like I said, and just go be me. Go play my game, be out there free, go be happy.
I know you said you don't worry about it much. There was outside noise about maybe wanting out. How did you handle that?
Had a talk with Kobe, and he was pretty upset about it. And when your GM is pretty upset, it's not a good look for the outsiders. So I knew that he wanted me around. I know he wanted me to be a part of this organization. So just try to brush it off and just try to lock in on myself and what the organization wanted from me.
Just reaffirm how you felt about the situation to him. Let him know you wanted to be here.
Yeah, I told him that I wanted to be here, and he knows that as well. So it wasn't really a long conversation about it, but definitely seeing the outside. And when Kobe shut it down, I knew it wasn't a good thing for everyone else to just keep egging it on. So just shut her down, and I just shut off my social media and just told myself just keep going for myself and what this organization needs.
Where did that idea come from?
One last question.
Where did that idea come from that you wanted that?
I really don't know, but it came out and it was definitely false. So
You got to respect Darius Garland for that, right? These players, they're human. They're not immune to criticism. They are not immune to some of the things that are said about them, especially in the social media age. So hearing Darius Garland come out and say basically that, he just got away from social media. He got away from it, didn't let it impact him, no matter how much was said, no matter how many people were speculating about possible trades and, his level of play, things of that nature. It is truly refreshing to hear him address that, because these guys, like I said, they are human. I'm sure they hear it, they see it. And, people in the media, fans such as myself, you guys out there, we're all guilty of criticizing these players, probably over the top at points in time We just don't know what's going on in their lives. And for DG last year, I mean, it was a rough year for our franchise point guard. And I mean, I think everybody can see why, or at least some of the reasons why that could have been. Just 57 games last year, and by his standards, it was a disappointing season. 18.4 points per game, 6.7 assists, shot 44.8% from the field, including 38.4% from 3-point distance. On the surface, those numbers don't sound half bad, but when you see some of the inconsistencies in terms of the 3-point shooting, how off and on he could be, his inability to finish at the rim at times, especially after that injury, because he started off the season shooting pretty poorly from 3-point distance, if I'm not mistaken, but he was finishing pretty well inside. And then it was kind of the inverse of that after the weight loss that followed the injury and whatnot. And the mentality from him just kind of seemed like he was deferring a little bit too much as the season wore on. And you got to kind of feel for him. And then one of the things that people love to point out about the 2023-24 season was the turnovers for Darius Garland, who would end up averaging a substantial amount this past season, 3.1 per game to be exact, which is his most since his All-Star season, when he basically had the ball in his hands the most that he's ever had it, because there was really no other option out there, especially after the injuries to Colin Sexton and Ricky Rubio, those two guys being primary ball handlers in their own right. And so I think with a full offseason to get that weight back, or at least some of it, being able to put on muscle, which DG obviously indicated that he did, although he would not elaborate on just how much weight that he has put on, he did let us know that he has gained weight and that he has added muscle to his frame. And it was kind of visible to me. You can't really tell, I guess, because these guys are sitting down, especially if you're not in the building for that event. But he definitely seemed a little bit bulkier to me. And that was the case for a number of players out there. Evan Mobley kind of comes to mind, a guy that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But Darius Garland certainly seemed to have put some of that weight back on. Maybe it's the goatee. I don't know. Maybe the weight is in the face or something like that. But certainly seems to be mature out there answering some of these questions. Hopefully he's put on that weight. Hopefully he returns to the all-star level of play that we know that he is capable of. As Colin says down here, but we have 2 full seasons of all-star level play. He's going to be fine. I think it's pretty clear that DJ was hurting last season. I think what makes it harder is that his body language can get really bad when he's struggling. Yeah. I think we can all agree with that. We can all see that when these guys are not playing up to the ability that they feel that they are capable of, some of them can sulk, some of them can visibly show frustration. You can see a lot of these things impacting guys, especially a player that like Darius Garland, who we know, like Colin said down here, is very, very capable of playing at an all-star level. And I think that he will get back to that this year under Kenny Atkinson. And Kenny actually seems very, very impressed with Darius and seems eager to work with him. So I cannot wait to see what this looks like on the court. But that wasn't the only thing that Darius was asked about, right? Because it's not always going to be about Darius and his play up there. They asked him about Donovan Mitchell and how it felt to no longer kind of have that cloud wing over the team of whether or not Donovan Mitchell is going to resign or not. And that's something that Donovan talked about in his time up there. And we'll get to Donovan here in a little bit. But when asked about that, he basically said it's really cool to see. He knows that Donovan loves this city and that he is happy to be here. One of the things that I love to hear was that he called Donovan Mitchell his brother and that they're locked in and that he knows that social media and the media in general will spin narratives, but he doesn't care, frankly, and that he called Donovan a winner and that he's super excited that he has resigned. And I think that that's a sentiment that many players on the roster would probably echo, because everybody knows when you have a situation where there is a player, especially your star, your franchise player, a guy that you traded away a lot of draft capital and quality rotation players for, anytime you have something like that occur and he is not signed for the foreseeable future, you're always going to be fielding questions. It's always going to be looming large. That decision that player has to make upon whether or not they're going to remain in town or not, that's always going to be something that is asked. And it always seemed, no matter the context, whether it was Cavs Media Day, a bad loss after the playoff series, a random interview, people could not help themselves from speculating on where Donovan Mitchell would be suiting up when his contractual obligations to the Cavaliers were up, or whether or not he would force his way out of town. But Donovan, to his credit, has been the consummate professional. Those around Donovan have not had, up to that point, not leaked anything out there. And his teammates, for all intents and purposes, believed that he wanted to be here as well. And that turned out to be true. And so I do believe that there is some relief on everybody's part in regards to this, not just Donovan, because Donovan no longer has to answer these types of questions, but Donovan's teammates as well. And Darius Garland is right up there with him. So I'm sure that weight has been lifted off of everybody's shoulders and that everybody can get back to just playing basketball. And so Darius Garland is right up there. We want Darius to get back to playing high level, elite, all-star level basketball. And I think he will get back to that. What that looks like from a statistical standpoint, I have no idea. I don't know exactly how many touches everybody is going to get. I assume that with an increased pace, more ball movement, and a heavier focus on three-point production, I think that everybody is probably going to see a small bump, if not a substantial one in the case of certain players. But I don't think it would be out of the question for Darius Garland to possibly put up another 20 points per game season, around 8 or 9 assists. I would love to see that with better efficiency, closer to what we got during the All-Star season and the 2022-23 season, which people forget about, and cutting down on those turnovers, right? 3.1 turnovers per game is just not going to cut it for your lead ball handler. You need to get that down to around 2.5, 2.6 per game, if not lower than that. Turnovers are a part of the game, but we want to see him take care of the ball a little bit more. It was nice to hear from Darius Garland. It was nice to hear from Jarrett Allen, but another player that we got to hear from was Evan Mobley, who, when asked about his personal goals on the air, stated this.
What goal that you'd like for this year for yourself?
Definitely all-star. Start there and definitely get back in the defensive player conversation. Those are two big things I'm definitely looking forward to really lock in on and take to heart.
So I think that we have now seen through 3 NBA seasons that Evan Mobley is one of the top, I don't know, is it fair to say top 10, top 5 defenders in all of basketball? Certainly top 5 big defenders in basketball. And we know how much switchability that he has. And it was a huge reason why he became the second youngest player to be voted to first team all defense, to Kobe Bryant in that regard. And then, finishing as highly as he did in the Defensive Player of the Year award rankings the year before last. We know how impactful of a defender that Evan Mobley can be. But the real jump that I think we all want to see Evan Mobley have is on that offensive side of the ball. And during Kenny Atkinson's media availability session on Friday, he mentioned that he wanted to up the usage for Evan Mobley. He mentioned that he wanted to get Evan Mobley more touches, allow Evan Mobley to make plays for others in transition, which in turn would be able to take Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell off ball, get them more off ball opportunities. And, the 3-point shot, that is something that has always loomed large in his game, something that has always been missing. So we all want to see that offensive explosion from him, or at least a substantial leap forward in that regard. And I think that we will get that under Kenny Atkinson. I don't quite know what that looks like, similar to Darius Garland from a statistical standpoint. But if Evan Mobley can take a step forward towards becoming the second best player on this team this year, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if he can take a step forward towards becoming that this year, I think that the Cavaliers really have a high ceiling. And that has always been the conversation surrounding Evan Mobley, is the potential. in the ceiling that he has as a individual, as a singular entity. So if Evan can get to an all-star level type of season, if he can return to defensive player of the year conversations, which assuming that he stays healthy and he meets the 65 game requirement that the NBA has instated, I think that these things could happen. Now, the problem on the all-star end, at least, is that it is very, very difficult these days to make an all-star team, especially in the Eastern Conference. It's tough. And so I don't know if he will get the name recognition for that, but maybe we can change that. Hopefully all of you guys vote out there. I know I certainly will be, but time will tell. It's a little bit different than when Darius and Jarrett made it, because the All-Star game was being held in Cleveland, which surely gave us a little bit of a bump there. So time will tell. But I think the way that Evan Mobley will be used this year will have a heavy influence on whether or not he gets to that all-star level. If they get him the extra touches, if Atkinson does the things that he has said that he wants to do with him on the offensive side of the ball, I think that a legitimate argument can be made that we're going to be looking at Evan Mobley's first all-star campaign in 2024-25. Just phenomenal. A phenomenal talent, and I'm hoping for the best from him. And now we can turn to one of the younger players on the roster who really, when they were given kind of an interview, because it wasn't during the standard media portion, he wasn't up at the podium or anything, but he was over with John Michael and company, and he was asked a lot of different questions, and I loved some of the responses that he gave. And the player that I'm referring to is Jaylen Tyson. So let's hear what he had to say.
Everything is new for you right now, but for this entire team, you've got a new head coach in Kenny Atkinson. What have the conversations been like between you two as you head into training camp and what the season's going to look like?
It's been a love-hate relationship. Let's say that. Let's say that. He just harps on me every time to make quick decisions, and be confident who I am. When I came in, I always was looking to pass. He said, "Look to score. Like, that's what you're good at. You're a scorer, right?" But he's a great coach. He's built a relationship with everybody, not just top but also bottom. I'm excited to play for him. Obviously, I've had a lot of people tell me about him and that played for him in my circle, so I'm excited and just trying to win some games.
Like you said, I mean, this is you only get this chance once, right? It's your first training camp. What's your approach coming in? Do you have expectations for yourself? What's the approach? What's the thought process as we head down south?
There's always expectations, Obviously, I want to help win this thing too, My expectation is just to get better every day, and learn a little bit. Not go in there and not learn nothing. We got 6 days to get better as a team and just help this team win and learn a little bit more about my teammates and about my coaching staff.
How would you describe your style of play, your game, and what these fans should be expecting?
I would say I'm not the most flashiest dude. I'm just gonna get straight to it. Like we're not gonna play with the ball. Let's just make the right read every time. Selfless player. I love to make my teammates around me better, and I try to make the right read every possession, and that's what type of player I am. That's how I was raised, to be selfless. So that's what type of player they should see out of me.
You've been around a lot of these pros all summer. You've been around this new coaching staff. What are some of the things that you've learned that you're going to take into this training camp?
Some of the things that I've learned, the biggest thing was making quicker decisions. Mm-hmm. In college, you have time to hold on to the ball, play, do all that. Now let's get straight to it, like I said. And playing off ball, that was the biggest thing I had to learn. I was used to playing off ball. I played a little bit when I was at Texas Tech, but it's been a fun experience. Obviously, it's a lot of growing pains for sure, but I'm excited and I'm ready to learn.
How about defensively?
Defensively, man, that's been my main focus. Mm-hmm. That's what's gonna get me on the court. Defense and rebounding. That's the biggest two things. And every chance I get, I just try to play the best defense and go on from there.
What can you tell us about your teammates and your relationship with the guys as you've been here all summer and have been able to start really building those?
The one thing I'll say about my teammates is nobody has an ego. Coming in, I thought everybody was going to have an ego. Certain people, it's just a big family here. Obviously, he's a grown man. They got kids back at home, so it's not the type of relationship I had in college. But, they poured into me, right? Obviously, we're all fighting for spots, all that, but they poured into me and, just want to see me succeed. Obviously, if I succeed, it helps the team succeed. So
They're just selfless guys. I'm excited to be in an organization like this and with players like this.
What does it mean to you to be within an organization and a team right now that is currently competing at a championship level, has been top 4 in the East the last 2 years, has continued to build that continuity and buy into the youth? What is the opportunity that you see for yourself here to be in a situation like that so soon?
So I would speak on the fan base out here. Very passionate fan base. I live downtown, so I see all the Guardians fans walking every week, And it was raining yesterday. I seen a bunch of them walking yesterday. So I speak on the fan base and what they like, and I could tell they like energy, like people that are gonna play hard, And that's my goal: to come out here and do those two things. And obviously, they pay a lot of money for these seats, so we want to give them a show every night, and obviously win, so we could be in the streets having fun.
There we go.
I just see it happening. I want to be here as long as possible. This is a business, obviously, but I want to be here as long as possible. I want to represent this on the front of my jersey. I want to represent this with class and utmost respect.
Are there players in the NBA who you have patterned your game after?
So when talking about that, I don't pattern my game after anybody. I think I have a unique game within myself, but I take bits and pieces from players, right? Going into the draft, me and my people sat down and talked about it, and 2 of them that I really liked that are Swiss Army knives was Josh Hart, a winner.
We know him well.
We finna get at them this year for sure. And then another one, Caleb Martin. He played with Miami. He's with Charlotte.
Philly now. Oh, well, yeah.
So Philly now?
I think he's Philly, yeah.
Philly, yeah. So those 2 I model my game after, and then take their how would I say it? Take their flaws and make them my, what I do best. So that's the 2 I've learned after, and those are obviously 2 winners, and that's what I want to bring to this organization.
So immediately you hear some of the things that this young man is saying, and it feels like you're listening to a 9-10 year NBA vet, as I see a lot of people down here indicating already. You got Colin saying, I love the comments from Tyson, especially talking about Hart and Caleb Martin. Those are 2 guys that would be difference makers on the Cavs. Fits in with how he looked in Summer League too. Rebounding especially gives Hart vibes. And Jay Quest mentioning down here, Tyson already sounds like a vet. And so I don't know how you can listen to this dude talk and not feel excited about the direction that this team decided to go with in the NBA draft. And you guys know, if you watched my live stream during the draft, when Jaylen Tyson was selected, I was beside myself, not because I didn't believe in the talent that he has, because I actually I put up some content on Tyson prior to the draft, and I was very, very very taken aback by the potential that he showcased as a creator, as an off-ball shooter, and a defender. And I thought he had a lot of positional versatility. The rebounding numbers showed you that. I believe he finished, was it 8th in the conference for rebounding his season there. And I could not have been more off base in terms of my reaction in regards to that. And then immediately when he showcased his talent in a live capacity during Summer League, it was like, man, who is this guy? Like, this dude really looks like he could be an impactful player in year 1 for the Cavaliers. And I just don't know how you could not be excited about the potential that he showcases. And you listen to some of his responses about the player that he models his game after. First off, I want to say it's always nice to hear a guy say, I don't really model my game after anybody. My game is my game. But then follow that up with, well, there are at least 2 guys who I see out there, and I want to take things from their games and make them my own. And then their flaws, I want to turn them into strengths for my game. And 2 of the guys that were mentioned, as you guys heard, were Josh Hart, who absolutely killed the Cavaliers during the 2022-23 playoff series, and Caleb Martin, a very, very good player in his own right. Now, Josh Hart in particular, that name to me, I mean, it's synonymous with the name versatility and Hart, right? His last name is Hart, but he is a very, very versatile player, a guy that can damn near play numerous positions out there. Josh Hart at his listed size, and he's not a very big dude out there, but at 6'5", 6'6", depending upon where you look, Josh Hart literally lines up everywhere. Now, for the Knicks last season, he played 4% of his minutes as shooting guard, 77% as small forward, and 19% at power forward. And I think that last part right there is very, very important to take note of. Dude is 6'5", 6'6", playing 19% of his minutes at the power forward position. With the rebounding ability that Jaylen Tyson has showcased, as I already mentioned, he finished 7th in the Pac-12 this season with 6.8 rebounds per game in that conference, right? At the listed size of 6'5", 6'6". Sports Reference has him listed at 6'7", but we know the draft kind measurements had him at 6'5.5" without shoes, probably closer to that listed 6'7" in them. But the point is that he is very undersized, yet he is pulling down rebounds like he is a tall wing or a big man out there. And so I think you probably in certain lineups could get away with playing Jaylen Tyson at the 4. And the Hart comparison is spot on to me because these guys do a lot of the similar things, a lot of the same types of things out there. Both of them are capable rebounders. Both of them are capable facilitators. Both of them are known to be, off-ball contributors. In the case of Hart, who is a career 34.4 shooter from three-point distance, I think that you can really look at what he provides you in that versatility and see a lot of that in Jaylen Tyson. So to me, I don't know how many minutes Tyson's going to get in year one, but with the indication being that Kenny Atkinson wants to go 10, 11 deep into the rotation, I don't think it's going to be that hard to get him on the court. And the versatility that he offers you allows you a lot of different lineup and rotation combinations. So it's good to have that type of player out there and to just listen to what some of the things this young man has said. It sounds like he's wise beyond his years, like he's been in the NBA for a while now. Colin says, if Tyson can actually give us minutes at 2 through 4, like Hart and Martin, would be huge for this team. Badly need versatility there. And yeah, I mean, for years and years and years, we have been screaming for like a true to size wing at the 3, right? A guy that's like 6'8" and above to compete with some of the best wings in the game. But sneakily, guys like Hart and Martin, who are listed at 6'5", 6'6", depending upon where you look, they contribute in multitudes of areas. Like Martin in particular, he has played at least last season, he played 50% of his minutes at small forward. He played 40% at 6. Now, Cleaning the Glass has him listed at 6'7", but if you look elsewhere, it's like 6'5", 6'6", but so you never really know. But the point that I'm making is that dude played 40% of his minutes at power forward. He played 50% of his minutes at small forward. And he actually played 9% of his minutes at the 2. And so there's that versatility again popping up. And if Tyson can model his game per se after players like that, then we're in for a real contributor in the next year or two, even possibly this year. And I don't know how you could not be excited about that, no matter who you wanted the Cavaliers to draft. As you guys know, who I wanted them to take. But I'm happy with who we ended up with. And this dude just sounds like he's ready to hit the ground running. And I'm very, very interested to see how Kenny Atkinson uses him and alongside some of these other players on the roster. Who else did we hear from today? We got to hear from Evan. We got to hear from Jarrett. We got to hear from Max a little bit off to the side. We got to hear from Sam Merrill. In Max Struess's case, I don't have any film on him, but he said that Evan Mobley looks bigger, he looks stronger, and he thinks that's going to be huge for him, and that he had no doubts about Donovan Mitchell re-signing with the Cavs, and that he thinks he sees the special togetherness in this locker room and the capabilities that the Cavaliers have. And I think that's a sentiment that most of these guys, if not all of them, would echo, is that everybody thought from the jump that based upon how these last 2 seasons have gone, that they did enough to sell Donovan Mitchell on the vision and the progress that the team has made. Sam Merrill, he said, when asked about the next steps for the team, Sam basically said that going through the regular season where you're trying to win as many games as you can, but while also preparing for the postseason, developing good habits, developing a style of play, and that he also feels like everyone gives up on their style in favor of hunting matchups in the playoffs, which we have seen play out on numerous occasions, and that taking care of their bodies and remaining healthy and just to try and get better every single day. And I think that that is something that when you look at the possibility of Sam Merrill entering the rotation on a more permanent basis, that I think that it is possible in the Kenny Atkinson era. It is certainly something that we will probably see a lot more frequently because, as covered in my expectations video, Sam Merrill, you got to kind of take his minutes per game totals with a grain of salt because at least for last year's, because it was all over the place. He logged a lot of DMPs at times, and I just think that he needs a consistent role. But one of the things that we heard from him during his media availability was that he knows it's going to be a battle and that there are a lot of players out there that are vying for minutes and that they're going to have to battle for said minutes in a role, and that he does believe in himself and in his abilities, but it is good to have that understanding. And it is, from Sam's perspective, I'm sure that's probably a difficult thing to do and to find that balance when you know that you can help a team, but you have to understand that maybe those minutes may not always be there. But I have a very, very hard time believing that based upon the skill set that Sam has, that Kenny Atkinson is going to have him sitting on the bench the way that JB did. Just have a very hard time believing that. When asked about personal goals for himself, he said that he wants to shoot better than he did last year and that he wants to be impactful. And I thought that that was funny because we're talking about a man who put up 8 points per game last year and shot 40.4% from 3-point distance on 2.3 makes per game. That's just insane production from a reserve out there and in the short amount of minutes that he was given. So if he can get higher than that, I don't know how you can sit him. I really do not know how you can sit this man if he's shooting better than 40.4% from 3-point distance. But if there's anybody that can get him there, if there's anybody who can get even more production out of him, it's probably Atkinson, because we've seen him turn guys like Joe Harris into elite shooters. Damari Carroll became the best version of himself under Kenny Atkinson, and numerous other guys out there who became quality rotation players when a lot of people were ready to write them off. And so I think that if anybody can do it, it's probably Kenny Atkinson. And so, as a Pisto says down here, quality minutes over quantity for Sam. And so I think there's a lot of validity in that. If you can't find Sam consistent minutes, hopefully they're able to find ways to make his minutes impactful when he is actually out there. And I think the ball movement, some of the off-ball motions and off-ball sets that Kenny's probably going to have in place, shooting off screens, having some of the bigs find him when he's on the move, whether he's cutting to the basket or whether or not he's going around the screen. I think these are different things that you can utilize to the team's benefit, because his movement generates gravity and it's going to open other guys up. And even if Sam isn't taking the number of shots that he got last year, because people are going to be paying attention to it far more than they ever did last year, because they know he's a sharpshooter, it's going to free up other guys because he's going to generate that gravity, and he'll probably have somebody tailing him on every possession that he's out there. He's like Curry out there. And I know that during my expectations video, I pointed out a very particular stat. I got to pull it up here. But for Sam, he was second to Curry, I believe, in attempts and percentage at per 36. I think I have it right here. He was one of only 8 players league-wide to play more than 500 minutes and attempt more than 10 triples per 36 minutes, and he trailed Steph Curry in 3-point percentage and volume in that regard. Anytime you're having a discussion about shooters and you're mentioned in the same conversation with Steph Curry, you know you're on the right track. You know you're doing something right, and you know that you're providing an elite skill, because Steph Curry is the greatest shooter that we have ever seen. So good to see that Sam has that understanding that even though the minutes may not be there, he's going to be doing whatever he can to get out there, and that he will try and overcome that to provide an even better season. And I think that's probably a good place to stop in regards to Evan, in regards to Donovan. A lot of things were said today in reference to, the weight gain for Mobley. And Mobley wouldn't elaborate on that when he was asked about that, because people did try and get him to put a number out there, because for the last few seasons, what we have routinely heard is, 15, what was it, 7 pounds last year? I can't remember what the exact number was last year, but there have been numbers floated out there every single season for Mobley in terms of that added weight. And it is very, very hard to tell. But just from a visual standpoint, Mobley did look a little stockier, a little beefier out there. So we'll have to see in regards to that. And I think that when you're talking about the progression of Evan Mobley, we all know that it is his progression. It is his development, at least in my opinion, that is going to cap this team, right? His development is going to truly tell us what the ceiling of this team is. If they're a true, legitimate title contender, or if they're just a playoff team every year. Evan Mobley's development will tell us everything we need to know about that. And that continues this year under Kenny Atkinson. For Donovan Mitchell, a lot of his questions centered around basically, not having that pressure anymore to answer questions surrounding whether or not he was going to remain in town. And I think that everybody, like I said before with Darius Garland in regards to this, not having to feel those questions, not having to have that cloud over your head of, hey, where are you going to play at after your contract's up? Or are you resigning in Cleveland? I think that is a big deal. And one of the things that he said was that, upon being traded to Cleveland, because he thought he was going to New York, was that he didn't know much about the city, and that he told his mom eventually that he really likes it there, and that there's passionate people. The food is great. And Cleveland, the city, has been great to him and an amazing place to live in. And that he also mentioned that while it does get cold, he's gotten used to it because he can dress better for it. And that when he was asked about when exactly he knew that he would be resigning, and he's mentioned this on numerous occasions already, but the answer that he gave today was that came about in January during the Paris trip that the team took, which was very awesome to see from the outside looking in. And that he's glad that this is the first media day that he didn't have to worry about questions about whether or not he's going to resign. And, the expectation for him and the team is for them to do, frankly, big things this year. And so that's pretty awesome to hear. And when asked about his preparations for this offseason and how he approached it, he did say that he didn't really start to go full bore until August, which just about, it is now getting ready to head into October. So a little over 2 months ago. But he said that he is feeling refreshed and readjusted, and he is in good shape, and he sounds ready to me. And he mentioned that he's very familiar with Kenny, and that he can see the energy, the passion, and strategy behind him, and that Kenny was even sending him text messages at 4 a.m. about how to slip screens, which, if that tells you how ready these guys are to get to work with one another, I don't know what else will. And one of the things that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball, I think I heard, was that he has a collaboration or some type of shoe coming out centering around gummy bears, which apparently he has an affinity for. So I'll be on the lookout for that. I don't know if exactly that was what was said, because I'll be honest with you, I had a damn hard time hearing any of the questions, but I think that's what I got from that. He also mentioned that he believed that at full strength and when they're healthy, that they are a championship contending team. And I think that is awesome for your superstar player to mention, that they believe that this team, this core, this roster, this coach is capable of bringing the city another title. So I hope it plays out that way. And obviously, as you guys saw at the jump, as the podcast first started, you got that funny moment with Tristan Thompson in there interrupting him to make a Snapchat video. But all that said, I'm very excited about the season. I'm happy that Media Day has finally come and that we get to, see some of these guys that we haven't heard from since the season ended in any team capacity. And I couldn't be more ready for the 2024-25 campaign to begin. But as I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to support the podcast in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. And go Cavs.